Hey, thanks for joining me. But before I get into this, be sure to follow me on all these alt platforms: BitChute, um, Gab, Rumble, Minds, Telegram, and Odyssey, just to be on the safe side in case I get bumped off of this platform. And if you're not following me already and you like this video and you want to give me a follow, I definitely appreciate it. So just remember to subscribe. Okay, let's get into the news. Okay, SEMA has a bill that they're trying to get, or an act bill that the legislature that they're trying to get passed called the RPM Act, recognizing the Protection of Motorsports Act. Essentially, what it is the EPA has been trying for a while now to ban race cars, or essentially what they're trying to do is say you take in your everyday car that you've owned since high school and you decided to convert it over into a drift missile or quarter mile strip car permanently. You never to be on the ever to see public roads ever again. So essentially, what the EPA will say is like, nope, you can't do that, and they want to fine you and ban all the parts, the manufacturers of the parts you put on it. So it's a big cluster, and I don't know if the folks at the EPA realize that now the aftermarket parts industry is a $2 billion industry. Not to mention how many jobs would be lost and whatnot. We'll get back into a little bit of that earlier from a congressman who fought this last time back in 2015, 2016, and was able to repeal them, fight the EPA back a little bit, and you'll see in this video. Let's give out a big shout out to SEMA as well as Life Apollos. He did a great coverage, a couple of videos on this, and want to give him a shout out for bringing this to my attention even more than what I remember, because I remember talking about this a long time ago, and it, lost wayside. And with things that are happening now these days, I don't care what side of the political belief you are, one side or the other. This is a bipartisan issue that affects everybody if you enjoy motorsports as a hobby or even being a gearhead in general. So let's get into what basically some of the facts that Seaman are talking about. And here we go. Protect your right to race. The EPA is banning race cars. Tell Congress to pass the RPM Act now and stop the EPA from destroying motorsports. Your member of Congress needs to hear from you now. And basically, here are the bullet points that they're talking about. Street vehicles, cars, trucks, motorcycles can't be converted into race cars according to the EPA. The EPA has announced that enforcement against high performance parts, including superchargers, tuners, exhaust systems, is top priority. Even if you are one of the hundreds of thousands of enthusiasts who contacted Congress in the past, we need you to support them again and basically contact them again. Another grassroots effort. Basically, we need to tell Congress, hey, do not pass this bill. It's crazy. And tell the bureaucrats in Washington that race cars are off limits. And I'll have links to this page and how you can read up on it on your own, and how you can be able. They have a great link here how you can contact your local congressman, and I'll get into that a little bit in a little bit. But yeah, if we head on over to the here, it's basically SEMA.com is a dedicated page for all matters of laws and regulations, both state and federal laws. That's a nice benefit about SEMA. If you're not a member, one of the benefits of joining them, they have their own lobbying firm efforts to get Congress to pass bills and whatnot for the benefit of us, the car enthusiasts. So something to think about if you are in the automotive industry and you never thought about becoming a member. Maybe now might be a good time to help join and fill out. So as you can see here, some of the legislative alerts that they have: save our race cars, start your engine, recreate dream cars will finally roar to life after a long awaited approval. I'll do another video specifically on that, but a quick recap: it's essentially any vehicles, replica vehicles, or vehicles that are 25 years or older, and if you wanted to make a recreation of it, you could, but obviously some rule changes are in place. One example would be DMC, the DeLorean Motor Company. I believe they're in Texas. They're sitting on, I think, spare parts for DeLoreans. They basically bought from the original, asset holders or intellectual property asset holders of DeLorean and bought up all of their inventory stock of parts. So it's rumored that they have like over enough parts to create 5,000 new DeLoreans if they were to start back up production again. The only caveat is if they were to do that based on these new rules and regulations, they have to meet today's emission standards. And there's a whole bunch of things that they have to follow. But it's something great for, the hobby. But now let's get into the bill. There was a Congressman Richard Hudson, who back in March 22nd of 2016 questioned a representative of the EPA, and I'm going to play it. You guys watch it. I'll also have links to this video so you can check it out in the video description. You check it out. I know it may be a repeat of what Life Apollos did, but it really matters for you guys to see what us gearheads are dealing with up in Washington. So let's get into it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Administrator McCarthy, for joining us today. Madam Administrator, I'm sure you're familiar with the EPA's proposed rule released last July that proposed new greenhouse gas standards for medium and heavy-duty trucks.
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that in the middle of that proposed rule, there's a proposal by EPA to make it illegal to modify vehicles used solely for competition?
No, sir, I don't believe that that's what it says, but I certainly understand the section that you're talking about.
Well, I can read the language to you. It says certified motor vehicles and motor vehicle engines and their emission control devices must remain in their certified configuration, even if they're used solely for competition or if they become non-road vehicles or engines.
Yeah. Did you hear any of that? I mean, come on. Let's go on.
Seems pretty clear to me. In your opinion, are owners of vehicles that have been modified so they can be used for competition now in violation of the law?
Sir, there is a clear exemption in the statute that addresses NASCAR and other professional raceways and why we do not regulate those vehicles. I think we were very directly trying to make sure that we are doing no more than what we've done before in terms of either compliance or enforcement, and we're trying to recognize that exemption in that rule.
Now she's going after NASCAR, established professional motorsport teams. She's not even addressing the grassroots efforts, like the son and father of other teams that want to go drag racing or oval track racing, drifting. It's the vagueness in the rules that makes this, what they're trying to do, very dangerous, in my opinion. But Yeah, let's get back into what the rest of it's saying.
Fully recognize that this has raised a lot of confusion, and we need to address this confusion moving forward, because there is no way. NASCAR's been a great partner of EPA. They do great work on biofuels. The last thing I want to do is
sure.
alienate them, that's for sure.
I appreciate that, but NASCAR is one facet.
Yes.
But what about your man or woman who likes to take a car in their backyard and fix it up and take it down a local drag strip and race it? I mean, that kind of modification, it appears very clearly, is now ruled out.
Well, we have never, ever enforced on an individual of that nature. What we're trying to do is get at manufacturers of these devices that they sell and make sure that they sell them only for competitive, dedicated vehicles, because it's really challenging to us to make sure that the certified vehicles remain in compliance with air regulations.
Hold up. What you just said there. Most of you have already ordered aftermarket parts for your cars, project cars, and all. And every time, whether it be Summit Racing, ATEC Motorsports, JEGS, Speedway Motorsports, usually on the big, catalog, internet parts vendors, they always put that disclaimer of some parts may not be legal for use on public road vehicles. So you're acknowledging when you order the parts to these parts vendors that you're not going to be using these parts on public roads, that they're only intended for off-road use only. So it's kind of like a double check 22 of what they're trying to pass. It doesn't make sense. And secondly, even if I did put those parts on my car and I get caught on the public roads, I'm going to be facing a lot more heavier fines and penalties on the local level. So, saying, oh, we need to determine, it's like, there's only so much the manufacturers can do. They can put the disclaimer, put warning labels on the products, and state they have no control on what the end user does at the end of the day when they bought the parts. It's a good faith measure that they are trying. So, come on. And I'll have a link to the rest of this video, and it's like if you want to watch it. But now this is here where we can talk about what you can do to do your part. If you head over, I'll have the link here on part of the, it's called votervoice.net and SEMA. They have this legislative alert to take action. And essentially, basically you'll fill out this information here. It'll contact your U.S. senators, your U.S. representative. It'll fill in, basically send an automated email with your name and address on it, saying this and whatnot. And I'll read you what they're saying here. To basically, respectfully, U.S. senators and representatives, I respectfully request that Congress pass the Recognizing the Protection of the Motorsports Act. The Bipartisan RPM Act protects the right to convert an automobile or motorcycle into a race car used exclusively at track. Modifying a vehicle into a race car is an integral part of America's automotive heritage. Many types of racing, including NASCAR, were founded on the premise that street vehicles, including motorcycles, can be converted into dedicated race vehicles. Racing events are an economic driver for many communities and a source of affordable, family-friendly entertainment for millions, with participants that range from professional to novice using converted race vehicles. Congress has never intended for the Clean Air Act, CAA, to apply to motor vehicles modified for competition use only. However, the EPA maintains that the CAA requires converted vehicles driven exclusively on tracks to remain emission compliant. The RPM Act clarifies that transforming motor vehicles into race cars used exclusively for competition does not violate the CAA. It is imperative that Congress pass the RPM Act to provide long-term certainty to racers and motorsport parts businesses, which is a $2 billion industry. And concerning the last year and a half that we've been going through, they don't need this right now. Definitely not. So, hold up, breaking news. After I sent filled out the form on the SEMA Sands website, contacting my 2 senators and state representative for my district, I got this back from my representative, and I wanted to read it off to you. So bear in mind, 1 second while I pull it up, and I'll read it off to you. Thank you for contacting me about the recognizing the Protection of Motorsports Act, and know that I appreciate your thoughts on this legislation. As you know, the RPM Act amends the Clean Air Act to allow drivers to modify a vehicle's emission controls if the vehicle is used for competition only. In July 2016, the Environmental Protection Agency issued draft rules to implement greenhouse gas emission standards for medium and heavy-duty vehicles under the Clean Air Act. This proposal drew concerns from individuals in the motorsport industry who feared that they would no longer be able to modify street vehicles for competition-only use. The EPA stated in its response to the public comments that it was not seeking to modify existing laws or policies regarding racing vehicles, and it dropped the controversial provisions from the final rule, which was issued on October 2016. All in all, that sounds good, but let's keep on reading a little bit. The RPM Act has not yet been reintroduced in the current Congress, given that the EPA resolved this issue in its final rules issued in 2016. In my view, this legislation is no longer necessary. And then the rest she goes blah, 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 blah. Well, here's the thing. Still under the rule of law, they can still go after you. And I'm going to get into a story that I just recently came about from Alejandro Flores, which I'll play some segments of for you to see his take on it. But let me continue reading, because I responded to this particular representative, and this was my response. And let's see, here it goes. Dear Representative, although the EPA did not finalize the proposed rules, the agency still maintains the practice of modifying the emission systems of a motor vehicle for the purpose of converting it for racing is illegal. Manufacturing, selling, installing race parts for the converted vehicle would also be a violation. The EPA has also announced that enforcement against high-performance parts, including superchargers, tuners, and exhaust systems, is a top priority. I go on to add this. Did you know that California, where I'm based, alone is the home to at least 5 supercharger manufacturers? Paxton, Vortec, Magnuson, Whipple, Kenny Bell, and at least 8 exhaust manufacturers. Bassani, BBK Industries, Borla Exhaust, Flowmaster, Gibson Performance Exhaust, JBA, MagnaFlow, and Sanderson Headers. Converting street vehicles is a dedicated race into dedicated race vehicles is an American tradition dating back decades, has a negligible environmental impact, while California is known for having the strictest emission laws. The state exempts racing vehicles from regulation. Food for thought there, huh? Motorsport competition involves tens of thousands of participants and vehicle owners each year, both amateur and professional. Retail sales of racing products make up nearly $2 billion market annually. Most of the vehicles raced on the estimated 1,300 racetracks operating across the U.S. are converted vehicles that the EPA considers to be illegal. The RPM Act does not interfere with the EPA's authority to enforce against individuals or bad actors, as I guess the current term is, of illegally installing race parts on vehicles driven on public roads and highways, and companies that market such products. Tampering with the emission systems of a motor vehicle used on public roads is a clear violation of the Clean Air Act. The RPM Act will provide the racing community with certainties and confidence in the face of an EPA interpretation of the Clean Air Act that threatens to devastate an American pastime and eliminate jobs in our community. This act has had bipartisan support in the past, but the current wave of politicians seems to be more focused on things like the Green New Deal and shutting down pipelines. So now I've got some videos from Alex Flores' YouTube channel. He had some great talking points. I reached out to Alex to try to get him in person, but haven't heard back from him, and I just couldn't wait any longer. So I'll have links to his channel in the video description, but I'm going to play some small parts takes that he has. But yeah, let's have a listen, and we'll go from there. I'll try to make this as fair use as possible. So yeah, 1 second. Here we go. Hopefully you can hear it.
To this part that absolutely blows my mind. Drivers can sometimes obtain faster acceleration and better fuel economy by using a defeat device.
Yeah, so basically what he's saying, like this one particular company, they got dinged, basically for diesel vehicles, is basically remapping, basically a reprogrammer, basically. And technically, yeah, this particular story here, I think, is a gray area, because did the company submit their product for carb approval testing, the certification, because that's a thing, but we don't know. And so it's a moot point. But yeah, he's talking about the benefits of better fuel economy. And yes, it can. Some of these tuners, with whatever adjustments, parameters that they touch, can, improve the fuel economy. Reason why maybe the manufacturer don't do it is, for whatever reason, they feel that if they did it the other way, they would get better fuel economy, that there wouldn't be room for improvement. Because keep in mind that auto manufacturers have like goals of reading, X amount of miles per gallon by a certain year date. So I think it's like 50 miles per gallon or something like that by X amount of years. But now with GM saying that they're going to end production of, fossil fuel powered vehicles by, 2030 or 2035 or something like that. Maybe it's a moot point. I don't know. But let's go on to what else he has to say.
It becomes more efficient. So it blows my mind that they're going at... Okay, a lot of you guys were like, oh, this has been going on since 2016.
Now what he's going to be bringing up is the VW Dieselgate. So let's listen in on to that.
Alex, this isn't new. This has been going on 2016. The Obama administration decided to go after people after, and it says it here, the U.S. government has stepped up oversight, right here on the bottom paragraph. The U.S. government has stepped up oversight of vehicle emissions after Volkswagen admitted in 2015 to intentionally evading emissions rules. The German automaker has since incurred more than $30 billion in penalties and costs. Meaning, if they can afford to pay, apparently you could still be left to operate as long as you pay, motherfuckers. Okay, so...
Yeah, well, in the article, there's questioning about whether, maybe by the grand total of things, maybe it might be 30 billion. But here is an article here from Forbes. VW, dating back to 2016. VW settles Dieselgate for 15 billion, but more shoes to drop. So a combination of VW will spend 10 billion to repair or buy back vehicles of some 475,000 diesel-powered vehicles with the 2-liter engine that were affected by this issue. The total value of the settlement is around 14.7 billion, but costs could climb for the automaker. Yeah, so we got that. What it boils down to is the bipartisan, the groups have been trying to get the RPM. Everybody's been trying to get the RPM Act to, the pass. Just get that verbiage out. And what I've been seeing with the current administration and what they were doing, it's a scary time, and that's why I think it's a big, scary time why SEMA is pushing hard for this, and I think all of us need to be pushing. So reach out to your favorite automotive YouTubers if they haven't already brought up the subject. Ask them to talk about it. Ask them if they will reach out. Talk to your favorite YouTubers out there. Ask them to also spread the word among their community, their followers. Make it sound like a broken record, but they need to, communicate, because if they don't think it's affecting them because they're too big, whatever, wrong. If the EPA gets their way, it's going to affect them, you, me, everybody else. But, Alex had a good point here he brings up, and I'm going to end this little rant and this video with what he has to say. So, here we go.
Talk about who's talking about this, right? Maybe I'm one of the very few YouTubers that's actually mentioning it. And I think the RPM Act should go through. Why should the RPM Act go through? Because then it allows us to maintain an amateur racing platform. Because a lot of us race to potentially do something with it, earn more business, get to a higher level, become pros, whatever, make better parts. Just Corey Willis talked about this the other day on Facebook. Basically, they want to kill amateur race.
And he brought up a good point. a good example. Adam LZ. He started modifying cars and he was like an amateur level doing a lot of drifting. And now look at him. He's got his own trailer rig, couple of cars, and he's competing in Formula Drift. So, there you go. Good point. All right, let's get back into it.
So let me ask you guys, I only have 56 or so thousand subscribers on my YouTube. Who is your favorite YouTuber that has over 1 million followers?
And while we're at it, if you're new to my channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I could use the subscribe, the like, and the comment on this video, so the YouTube algorithm can recognize it and maybe help reward me. So, okay, thanks.
Cletus, Adam LZ, It's Just a Six, and you can go down the list of people that literally take cars with a VIN and their whole life is modifying them and show you how to modify them and just entertain you with their cars. Their business will be gone if this shit goes through. If left unchecked, their business will be gone. What are they going to do? Every single car that every YouTuber modifies has a VIN number. So why are they silent on this? Why is every other YouTuber and no one's screaming it from the rooftops that this has to stop? Because they have a huge influence and a huge following. Do they think, that's not my fight? Actually, it's your fight. It's coming. It doesn't matter if you ignore it or not. If this goes through, everyone is going to get a knock on their door. Everyone is going to get a knock on their door. And all those people have not talked anything like this. I'm saying like this, to urge their followers to go online, contact their representatives, contact their senators, contact people in Washington and say, this is bullshit, dude. The RPM Act has to go through to allow a platform for a 40 plus billion, guys, 40 plus billion dollar industry not to die. Now, I could call a truce and get everyone that I hate and tell them, hey, man, let's get after it. Let's get together and let's get to racing and let racing be a thing. Because if we leave it unchecked, this could be the last Texas 2K. This could be the last streetcar takeover. Bye-bye. Streetcar takeover. Bye-bye. Texas 2K. Bye-bye. NMRA racing. Bye-bye. NMCA racing. Bye-bye.
So we as an automotive community need to stand up and shout to our elected officials that we want them to pass the RPM Act. If not, we should be telling these politicians come to the next election cycle that we're going to be considering our options of candidates that will listen to us and support our concerns. Be it term limits and whatnot. Why is it that the President of the United States is the only elected official that has term limits, and senators and congressmen don't, outside of natural causes? And speaking of that, let's get into a story here from my newest freshman senator that just got nominated into his position by our state's governor. Basically, as you can see here, he basically hasn't taken a position yet, or he basically needs to get back to me. But come to find out, and let's see. Exclusive: U.S. senators press Biden to set end date for gas-powered vehicles. You got it. California's 2 U.S. senators are urging President Biden to set a firm date to phase out gas-powered vehicles as the White House grapples with how to rewrite vehicle emission rules slashed under the President Trump administration. links to this particular piece will be in the video description. But yeah. So reach out to your favorite YouTubers. Ask them if they're willing to help support the RPM Act. And ask them if they're willing to get on a live stream panel discussion among automotive YouTube creators about the RPM Act that I'm thinking about hosting, and want to get other panel guests, and possibly we can open it up to calls from you, the viewers, regarding this important issue that is going to affect all of us as a community. It's something I'm throwing out there for you guys. So yeah, I'm willing to throw that out there. Hey, Aaron, Life Apollos, would you be willing to come on to a live stream panel to discuss the RPM Act, since I know you've did several videos on this, and I think you'd be a good fit. And I'm trying to get a few other YouTubers who are in support of the RPM Act, and have a further discussion. So let me know. So be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video out. Thanks, everyone.